We talk about the American dream and families. We walk a different road off the beaten path. Our sources are impeccable and accurate. We champion veterans and the U.S. military, including the history of heroes and the branches. We are horse people and wild horse advocates. We believe in the Western and American traditional way of life. We believe in athletes and fair play. Finally, we believe in the golden rule, Jesus, and God. I want to talk about the U.S. Army, a couple of the defeats they had at one of the best American tacticians that this country's ever seen. I'm talking about Crazy Horse, the Sioux. He wasn't really a chief, but he was a war chief. Let's put it that way. He had two major victories, especially at that time. He had the Fetterman massacre. They massacred 80 cavalrymen. Fetterman had a huge ego, and he said, "You give me 80 men, I'll go out there and wipe out the whole Sioux Nation." Well, that didn't quite turn out correct. Crazy Horse lured him in. They actually mooned the Fetterman troops and got him over a certain hill, and they were ambushed, and they were all killed. Shortly after that, in 1876, Crazy Horse did it again with Sitting Bull and about 3,000 Indians. There was 3,000 Indians, 2,000 to 3,000 Indians there. It's been, a lot of people said it was between 7,000 and 9,000 Indians. It wasn't. There were 7,000 horses there because each brave had 2 or 3 horses. So it looked like there were a lot more Indians than there was. So between 2,000 and 3,000 Indians, they went and wiped out the 7th Cavalry, General George Custer, who had an ego and split his divisions. And that caused the death of not only, I think it was over 240 cavalrymen, and they had cannons, they had everything, but also his brothers. He lost 3 brothers at that battle. So basically the Custers were wiped out at that point. And Crazy Horse is the one that did all that. One of the greatest tacticians in American history. He's true American. He was here before any of us was. We got Greg Meakin. Greg, I don't know if you know anything about that. The Indians called it greasy grass. We called it the little bighorn.
Well,
the Indians called it greasy grass. And they were there at a gathering. And so for Custer to go in there and think he was going to do, some major thing, he that was one of the major defeats in the Army of that day. And it caused shockwaves across the country. And it led to the end of the Indians. They really came hard down on the Indians after the Greasy Grass Massacre. Greg.
Oh, that was a tragic story, Shanimal.
Yeah.
Tragic story. Bill O'Reilly killing Crazy Horse.
Oh, yeah.
I read it.
That's very controversial. I have some Sioux Indian friends, and they told me the real story.
Right.
And they said Crazy Horse could only be killed by one of his own people. So it's very controversial if he got stabbed by that cavalryman with the bayonet or one of his own guys did it.
Right. A bottom line tactician, second to none. A Robert E. Lee kind of guy.
Yep.
The one thing before I forget, my little old guy brain, before I forget, Custer. If I lose my train of thought today, Shannon, will just remind me. I can remember 60 years ago, but I can't remember how I started a sentence. You know what I mean?
That's why I write everything down, my man.
Ask Eddie Floyd about that, right? Let's get going around a campfire again, man. Before I forget, I want to bring this up about Custer.
Okay.
Here's something really, really underrated about him. You do hear a lot about his romantic side.
Yeah.
With his wonderful wife Ruby and stuff, but you don't hear about his courageous side, because anyone who's read up on him, and this comes right out of O'Reilly's book, is when it was time to fight Shanimal, this guy was fearless.
Absolutely.
He would attack. One of my favorite lines out of Killing Crazy Horse, just going off of memory, is Custer didn't hesitate. He attacked.
That's why he was promoted to general in the Civil War, knocked back down to colonel after he got out of the Civil War. But he was a general in the Civil War for that same fact. He had no fear, and he would charge and take over the enemy.
Exactly. I think it's called a brevet, right? They promote guys within wartime, and then they go back to the rank. Custer, he was a fearless guy.
Yep.
I think there was another line that said, Custer has been killing Indians since daylight. One of those things.
Yeah.
So he didn't become famous for no reason, and totally flawed egocentric individual. But never forget the warriors out there.
Yep, that's right.
A lot of them are half cocked. You know, you once said you talk about Patton.
We
You know,
need
no
that
matter what,
in a warrior.
one of my favorite quotes is Patton, and I forget who said this, Shanimal, but he said, "Say what you will about Patton, if you absolutely positively needed someone's ass kicked, you called George
Yeah.
Patton."
He
Seriously.
outfoxed the Desert Fox, Rommel.
Rommel. Rommel, you're
There's another
taking me
one.
back here. My grandfather fought in that war. My father and two uncles fought in that war, Shanimal.
My
You know,
great uncle did too.
I know.
At Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Now that was a bad situation. The Bulge. I cannot imagine those guys getting through that, Shanimal. Did you hear stories like firsthand about that winter and the Bulge?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Oh,
Just terrible. And
like
my great uncle, which is my grandfather's twin brother, he took a shot to the head, and it went around in his helmet, and he had a permanent spiral like tattoo on his head from that bullet going around his head.
no, but he survived.
Yeah, he survived.
Oh my God.
Yep.
My God.
You know what?
So,
Hey, back on the Custer thing.
yeah.
They say Tom Custer, his brother, was even more fierce and a better warrior than George.
Really?
Yeah.
There's the underrated thing, his brothers, Shannon. We'll talk about that a little bit. Here we go. There's other shows in the future too, man. Let's talk it out here today. This is good stuff. You're a true gourmet connoisseur of this era and the Indians and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I really studied on him. But Tom, he was also a hero in the Civil War, and I guess I didn't get too much in on Tom, but what I do know about him, but he was fierce and maybe smarter and a better warrior than his brother was. So what a terrible loss to have all the Custer brothers die at that point. But you know, they wiped out a lot of Indians too. And it didn't take long, Greg. I think it was within 2 hours that they'd wiped out the 7th Cavalry, even probably shorter than that.
Oh yeah. No, it was a butt whooping. Sometimes you just get your butt whooped. You know,
and they just went in circles. They circled this cavalry as they ran away through the greasy grass and just put arrows and not too many bullets, but a lot of arrows in there. And it's also rumored that a woman might have killed Custer, a brave woman. So I don't know what O'Reilly said about that, but that's also that's either a myth, a rumor, or true. But you know, there's so much myths about that.
Sure. And there's tons of stuff out there. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got their history. But the other underrated thing is these Sioux women, Shanimal.
Yeah.
They were fierce.
Absolutely.
They were.
You know, and of course, they degraded all the bodies. They cut them up, cut off everything.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of left Custer alone. They put like draws or like spikes in his ears that women did. So, well, maybe you can hear now.
Yeah.
That's what they did to Custer.
The awful thing, and I can never come out of reading about that era and feel, shall we say, good or comfortable, because it was so awful. And the thing about
on both ends, Greg.
And it's we're in an era, right? Who's right, who's wrong? I mean, you've read up and up about this. I'm saying both. This was brutality from both sides. And it simply got to a point, like some of those unending wars out there, where it was just becoming tit for a tat. There was awful carnage. And then, of course, and the coveted thing of the whole Indian nations were the horses. Hello?
Exactly.
The horses.
Yep. And it's a fallacy. The movies, every Indian was on a horse. That's not true either. There wasn't that many really good horse tribes out there. The Nez Perce were, and the Apaches ran. An Apache would run 20 miles in a day. Right. They just ran through the desert. So, SHANIMAL LAWSON here in the crowd. Greg, hold on. We're going to be taking a break. Grand Meakin is on the board. SHANIMAL LAWSON, the American Roundup. Hopefully, we'll be back.